Welcome back to On Texas Football's Tuesday Night Longhorn Livestream presented by Andy Ludicky. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, and it is Texas OU. It is OU Hate Week. I'm joined by CJ
Yeah,
Bobo,
it is.
Hal, Hookem. We're not where we wanted to be so far, but, anything can happen in this game, guys. Anything can happen, whether Mateer plays or not. How are y'all feeling?
I don't know.
That was a long pause you took there.
I had to think about it quite a bit. To your point, Texas is in a hole. Now let's see if they dig themselves deeper into a hole or they find a way to construct a ladder and get out this weekend. They have an opportunity this weekend to right the ship and kind of salvage what is remaining of this season, or they could just lie down, fill in the dirt on top of themselves, and call it a season. It's basically what it is this upcoming Saturday. So I don't know how I'm feeling.
I love this week. I love this game. Look, if you can't get up for this one, if you don't have enough pride about you or whatever to bring the juice and play like your life is at stake, then I don't know what the hell any of us are doing here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I feel like it's similar to what Florida was doing last week, playing with your backs against the wall this game. And I mean, we're going to talk about this first, but there seems to be a lot of people actually now rooting for Arch Manning, thanks to a lovely article from The Athletic that some of you are mentioning in these comments. If we want to get that pulled up, there was a rather harsh criticism by a writer at The Athletic. And mind you, this is the same outlet that said Texas was the next Alabama just a couple months ago. It says many people are having a bad year in college football, but Arch Manning is having one of the worst. The quarterback has gone from preseason Heisman Trophy favorite and projected #1 NFL draft pick to a man synonymous with failure. So do we think that's a little harsh?
God bless America, man. What are we doing?
Failing New York Times.
If y'all have some free time this evening, I encourage you to go read through some of the comments on this post, because I think most people can agree that this is certifiably insane. Like, if you can get to where Sooners, Aggies, and Longhorns are all agreeing on the same subject. No, Lucci did not write this article. He actually agreed that it was a bad article, and then went to say some other bullshit. But anyways, if you can get those three fan bases to agree on something, it was a really, really bad take. I mean, I don't have an Athletic subscription, so I didn't read the article, and I didn't feel the need to read the article, as I'm sure most people did not.
I mean, I think Arch hasn't gotten off to – I know Arch hasn't gotten off to the start that he had anticipated, right? But for anybody with eyes and a sense of football knowledge who watched that Texas-Florida game in the swamp, I think they would all come to an understanding that he was far from the issue. In fact, quarterbacks on the roster, quarterbacks from previous rosters, I don't think put up 21 points given the offensive line performance that Texas had on Saturday. Now, again, Arch has plenty of room to grow. And, again, he's far from what I think he anticipated himself becoming or playing like early on this season. But, there's plenty of opportunity for him to grow. And, again, I think there's so many glimpses that we saw of Arch showing what he can be. Now he's got to be more consistent. But that article calling him the first college football flop is very funny. If this is – I can only explain it as this is New York Times. This is the Athletic's first season of college football they've ever watched.
I feel like they've had a few other college football flops out there. I mean,
the more I just think about this, the more it just pisses me off. And it's not just because it's Arch. And I'm not perfect, right? And anytime I talk or write, but I've tried really hard. I heard Will Muschamp say one time, criticize the performance, not the performer. And again, I'm not perfect, but I've tried to kind of take my analysis towards that part of it. I thought it was hilarious when I went to The Athletic and I got to the comment section, and like the third comment down was like, are we only allowed to talk about Arch Manning and hyperbole? Like, is that like we can all? It's only like one end of the scale or the other. I know some of the people at The Athletic, and I think they're good people that work there. Like, honestly, like Sam Kahn. Honestly, I'll just shout out Sam. Like, one of the best, genuinely good people covering college football. But the fact that somebody on the editorial side let this ride and with that headline and like the fact it's just it would be one thing if you're criticizing Archer's performance, but like the article alludes to, well, it almost created a quarterback controversy when Matthew Caldwell came in and completed a pass. There's a news flash I missed during the game. There's a nugget that didn't make its way across my desk. When the hell was there ever a quarterback controversy between Arch Manning and Matthew Caldwell? So that's the kind of stuff you can criticize Arch's performance, and there's plenty of stuff there that is valid and fair to point out without going down this road. I just don't like the tone of it. I don't like the way it's presented. And honestly, man, The Athletic is better than this.
Hey, it's funny because you talk about Arch Manning, you talk about the name, the personality, the hype coming into his season. What's lost is who he is as a person, right? You know, and being the quarterback at Texas, you're going to draw scrutiny. You're going to draw a lot of headlines. You're going to draw attention probably you didn't really want, especially for a first-year starter for Arch specifically. Go back to what he said at SEC Media Days. You know, there's an article, an interview he had with Pete Thamel of ESPN. Quote, "It's weird," he said of kind of the media pub. I really haven't deserved any of this. So just trying to play along and play ball, talking about how much of the media has been hyping him up. You know, the preseason expectations, the Heisman favorite coming into the season. He's downplayed it all from the very beginning. And so the fact that this is the conversation that we're having is interesting. Now, again, for Arch, I'm pulling for him because he is a really good kid. According to what Sark was saying, he played his absolute ass off on Saturday. And for, again, anybody that watched that game, far from the issue that Texas had on Saturday offensively.
Yeah, and I want to be clear based on some of the comments. I completely agree with Jeff. A lot of great people at The Athletic. I love Sam Khan. He actually interviewed me for a story last year, and The Athletic does have a lot of great writers, but I also agree. I don't know how something like this got through the editorial board, and I think this is something you continue to see, especially when it comes to Arch Manning in Texas, is just what is going to get the most clicks at this point, which as a journalism grad from UT is my least favorite kind of journalism. It's synonymous with it bleeds, it leads. And yeah, I don't think Manning has turned into a name that is synonymous with failure. That's one of the most insane headlines I think I've seen in a very long time. And the comments, I think, completely agree with that. But anyways.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, Amanda, and this is just me soapboxing a little bit here, but there has never been a more strained relationship between the general public and the media, and that extends to sports as well. And it is really, really hard. The people that try to do it the right way and want to just give good information and good analysis, it's really hard to do that when stuff like this happens and it's front and center. It's almost like for us as a media industry, it's one step forward, 10 steps back. I feel like when stuff like this happens.
Yeah, I completely agree with that on all accounts. And I mean, it's proving people's points that are very frustrated with the current landscape. But we'll talk a little bit more about Arch Manning. We have a lot to get into, a little bit recap of the Florida game and what went wrong, and then what can you do to fix it come probably one of your biggest games of the season. Obviously, Sark talked to the press on Monday and had some interesting responses that were a bit reminiscent of coaches past. If we want to listen to this response at the end of the interview when he was asking about the start that Texas has had to this season.
I don't know if I'm stunned. I mean, take the other, how many teams are there in college football? 130, 36? Take the other 135 and have them go play at Ohio State and at the Swamp. See how they do.
It's such a pathetic answer.
Roll your eyes.
Sark's been good, man. Look, he's good at talking to the media. He's good in these press conference situations. At times he'll get snippy, right? We've talked about that at times. He certainly will, rightfully so at times. But more than not, he'll give you an answer that I feel like is beyond coach speak. That's loser speak. That's a pathetic answer. Take the other 135 teams. How many of them came in with what we just talked about? The Heisman preseason favorite, the number one team in the country, one of college football's most expensive rosters. And we're talking about 5 games in. Oh, Well, we played some tough teams on the road. Give me a break. You have a talented team. You haven't lived up to it. You're a talented coach. You're a smart coach. You've not lived up to it. It's a pathetic answer. It's a loser answer, and it's unlike what we've seen from Sark. Again, I think he normally does a fine job of handling situations and questions like that, but that is a very very pathetic answer, in my opinion.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. After dealing with the last 4 years of Mac Brown's tenure and Charlie Strong's just honesty to a fault when he would talk to the media, and man, I could write a book on the 4 years of Tom Herman. It takes a lot to move the needle for me, and I guess that just probably didn't register with me the way it should have. But CJ, I want to hit on this with something you said. Sark, 99 times out of 100, is really good in these situations. He's been really good since he took the job about not saying anything that's going to back himself into a corner where you can come back and be like, see what you did there? This is the one exception, because it's one thing for us on the outside to have expectations, sky-high expectations for what this team could be. But it's another when you and your players are out front and they're speaking, they're just giving everybody the message that's coming from the top down. When you talk about playing for a national championship and being a national championship caliber team and getting back to the playoff and being in it for the long haul and talking about your season going into December and January, and you put a product on the field like you put on the field against Florida, you can't be shocked about some of the questions that are going to come your way. And I said this earlier this year about Brian Kelly and Mike Elko, and I'll say the same thing about Sark. I try not to take it personally during press conferences when coaches are answering questions, right? Because you're in that hot seat, and some of it can get repetitive, and some of it's stuff you don't want to talk about. So, I get, it's not personal against us, but you need to be careful what you say, because Sark early in the year. This is like Sark early in the year with the red zone offense. All right, we can have fun and we can laugh and joke about Sark kind of spinning the answer, but then when the offense has been as bad as it is, you can't joke about it anymore. Like, you've got to just take these things seriously, and it's going to come back to bite you. And I think for the first time in his tenure, we're starting to see it come back to bite Sark. And I want to get y'all's opinion on this. This has been maybe the most interesting part of the first 5 games. And this is like, I've seen this from the chat. I've seen it on the message board at On Texas Football. I've seen it on social. I haven't seen fans go after the players as much as I've seen a part of this fan base almost turn on Sark on a dime. And look, a lot of that criticism is justified based on the product on the field, but it's just, I don't know. I'm a little bit taken aback that the switch has flipped that quick for some people. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like I said, you're justified. Just a little surprising is all.
I mean, I think we began to see that last year with Quinn. Anytime Quinn looks like he was a little bit off the fan, a lot of the fans were just immediate flips to put in Manning, put him in. Just, I think that's just become more of maybe the nature of just how chronically online a lot of sports is these days, of just immediately looking for something better. And then the whole transfer portal on NIL aspect, everybody expects things to be absolutely immediate now. So I don't know, but I've seen the same thing. And I have to say, I am surprised as well. I mean, maybe not with the Sark thing completely as much, because I do think there's some level of frustration with fans now seeing a regression, because since Sark began at Texas, that first year was rough, 5-7, but since then you've only seen progression each year in this team. You haven't really seen them take a step back like this and see how they can respond when it comes to just season to season performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to go that direction too. Every year has been a step up, right? You've gone up and up and up. You've climbed that ladder. You've gotten really close to winning or playing for a national championship. You bring in the number 1 class in the country. You have a number 1 overall quarterback, and you're expecting this is going to be a team that has pieces that should allow you to compete for that national championship once again, with the hope that that quarterback elevates your play from what we saw a year ago, right? And I think Texas can get to that point with the quarterback, but obviously you've fumbled around and you've slipped up already. That probably prevents you from playing for the college football playoff. And that's where the frustration is when the same issues that hindered your ability to play for a national championship 2 years in a row have now come to a light so large that it prevents you from playing for a playoff position entirely, the blame is going to tip over, right? And that same consistent issues, again, that have prevented you from winning a championship, from being the best program in the entire country, are so significant that you can't run a functional offense. Well, what do you expect? I mean, it's been recurring issues time and time again, whether it's third downs, whether it's penalties, whether it's red zone offense, whether it's the lack or the complete inability to gain a single yard in tight situations with an offensive line full of guys that have been in the program for 3 and 4 years. And this has been a continuation, right? It's so frustrating looking back and saying, yeah, man, Texas sure was close the last 2 years. And you look back and you say, wait a minute, they had 4 guys on that offensive line that went and played in the NFL. They had that 5th member was a 5-star kid. They should be able to go out there and move a pile a yard. And they couldn't do it. Now it's okay. They're gone. How will you be able to readjust? And you're looking 6 weeks into the season saying, this is a complete dumpster fire on the offensive line. How is this the case 5 years into the tenure when you're sitting around talking about big humans? You're talking about bringing in and getting the SEC size adequate to what you expect to compete for championships. That's where the frustration is. And it makes total sense because it feels like a complete lack of preparation that led to this point. And I know that there are some bumps along the way that prevented this, right? Andre Kojo's injury. That's a piece that probably is on the field in some capacity right now. I don't really have an answer for why Neto Omuzulu has fallen out of favor, but at some point when you have a guy that's a 4th-year senior playing for a starting position at that guard spot, week of the season opener no longer is a viable option. I don't know what to tell you. You know, his time at Texas very much likely done. We probably won't see him in a Texas jersey anymore moving forward, right? And just being honest, he would be on the field otherwise. So I don't know what to tell you. I feel like, one, it's twofold. It's unfortunate for Kyle Flood in that regard, but ultimately he's the guy that's got to make sure that this is a squad that's prepped. And for Steve Sarkisian, if he's not, well, you got to protect your quarterback. You got to protect your offense. You can't allow your quarterback to be hit 20 times because he will get dinged up. It's just the fact of the matter. And if you do have a bad offensive line, which you do, you got to scheme around it. Where's the quick passes? Where's the movement of the pocket? Where are the rollouts, the waggles? Is Arch really that unable to throw a quick screen, Jeff and Amanda? I don't think so, but we've not seen it. So it leads me to think that maybe he is. And again, 3rd year in the system, in which what we saw from Quinn Ewers the last 2 years, that's all he did essentially was those quick check downs, RPOs. So I don't know, but I understand the frustration 100%. I don't think that you need to be sitting here, fire the coaches, get the pitchforks and torches out. I don't think you need to be doing that. But it definitely is time to take a look in the mirror and say, okay, we've built this program up to a spot that we want to be at. But we've taken a step back and maybe we've miscalculated what it takes to remain at that level. And that's something that this staff is going to have to take a heavy look in the mirror at this offseason.
Yeah, sorry, CJ. I didn't mean to cut you off a minute ago.
No, I'm done. That was heavy-winded. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I go back, about 5 or 6 minutes ago in the chat to Joey Austin's quote. His post says you can't trust Sark after the Florida game following a bye week. And that to me, like the further removed we get from the Florida game, I'm like that parent that'll tell you, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And like, it's like, to your point, CJ, like we talk about all these different things you can at least try to implement to alleviate some of your issues on offense, to potentially mask some of your deficiencies on offense. We didn't see any of it. Like we didn't see anything that was uniquely different. We saw a couple times where they used the pony package with Ryan Niblett. But other than that, there was nothing outside the box. I mean, we talked about, hey, has Sark been saving stuff? Is he going to open it up for Florida? It almost made me wonder, like, what the heck did you guys do during the bye week? Like, what were you guys doing in the meetings? And I know they're working hard, but like the product on the field makes you wonder. So that's the thing for me. I thought, it had been like, you got to go back to the Texas Tech game in 2022 to find the last time that a Steve Sarkisian coach Texas team played a game, lost a game where you're like, dude, how did they lose that game? Like, they were a better team than that other team. Like, they shouldn't have lost that game. Again, when you're ranked and you're facing an unranked opponent, but I thought we were past that. But CJ, everything you just laid out makes you wonder, like, all right, maybe we're not. And now that trust has to be rebuilt. It's a week-to-week proposition, something I said a lot during the latter portion of Mac Brown's tenure, and at times during Charlie Strong's tenure, and at times during Tom Herman's tenure. I didn't think we'd be here, but we are at the point where it is a week-to-week proposition to see what kind of product we're going to get.
Big opportunity this weekend to extinguish a lot of those flames.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say win this week puts you right on track to achieve everything that you set out this year. But for the short term, your house isn't burning down. It's just one room, right? And then you go to the next room, and then you go to the next room, then maybe the next floor. But it has to start somewhere, and that somewhere is this weekend.
Yeah, I think I posted on Twitter this week that the fire is in the kitchen. It can be contained, but you gotta get to it before it hits some grease or something. But we'll get to a little bit to the OU game right after we hear from our sponsor, myperfectfranchise.net. Are you looking to diversify or new ways to make money? Andy Ludecki at myperfectfranchise.net can help you do just that by finding businesses that will fit your time allotment and financial goals. Call him or email him to learn more. He's got a really cool process that identifies the perfect fit for you. Email him now at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. So, of course, I feel like a lot of fans will temporarily forgive this team if they beat the Sooners in Red River, which tends to be the case for many years. I know it was the highlight of my senior year, even though that was pretty bleak. But a lot of controversy around the OU quarterback right now. And I think Venables was not really giving up too much. But, it also seemed like he did not know much in his presser on Monday. But reporters certainly asked about it.
Yeah, Brent, has John Mateer ramped up at all this week, and has he been able to throw the ball at all?
He's doing his normal protocol. He's done zero good on good work. I don't know. I'm just going to cut you off. I don't know anything about the injury. So when they tell me he's available, I'll let y'all know.
Do you find it hard to believe he knows absolutely nothing about the injury?
That the head coach at Oklahoma doesn't know anything at all about his starting quarterback, surgically repaired hand.
I find that hard to believe. Also, if it is true that he hasn't practiced, it's a stretch for me to say that it would be a good idea for him to play on Saturday. But at this point, does it matter if it's a good idea or not? Because people are begging for it.
I don't know. I would love to sit here and play poker one day with Brent Venables. If that's what lying is going to look like, boy, I'd be rich. But come on. Jeff, to your point, the head coach doesn't know anything about a starting quarterback's injured throwing hand on an undefeated top 10 team.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think he's getting daily updates.
Come on.
No,
I don't know why my house is on fire. I've only lived in it for 20 years. Come on.
Dude, can I give kind of my hot take on this game though right now?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't care if it's Mateer or Hawkins.
I was saying the same thing earlier.
Because neither one of them is going to have an impact on whether or not Texas can run the football and protect the quarterback. That's simple for me. That's more often than not. Very, very rarely. And I can pick out the times when it's happened where the more physical team in this game is not the team that wins. And right now, I almost feel like the Texas defense and the Oklahoma offense, I feel confident in the Texas defense bouncing back. And Oklahoma outside of John Mateer hadn't been able to run the football. We could say the same thing about Florida, but Oklahoma doesn't have the same kind of pieces that Florida had. On the flip side, I was concerned about the matchup with Oklahoma's defensive front with the Texas offensive line before the Florida game. And now my bar is set pretty low for the Texas offense on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to agree with you there. That was the biggest thing, and that was one of our next topics to discuss, the Texas O-line versus D-line. But before we get into some of that, can you tell our followers about Duck Camp?
Yes, I can. Amanda, Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's at a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres. For a Saturday kickoff, born right here in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From those sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers or mid-season scorchers at the rate we're going, to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics. Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook them. Shop duckcamp.com today. And when you go to duckcamp.com, type in the promo code ONTexas25 to get that On Texas Football discount on your order at duckcamp.com.
Now, I really like this question from Alec. Thanks so much for the super chat, Alec. Y'all think O-line struggles fooled us on DL? Coaches thought rush would be easy, but it's flat, no movement, no creativity. Fronts we face look 10 times better. I like that question involving just the O-line and the D-line, because we saw some struggles, obviously, against Florida on both fronts.
Yeah, I'm not ready to throw away this Texas front seven. I think obviously they took a step back against Florida, but let's not forget Florida ran for 200 against them a year ago, right? It was just a 30-point blowout that it was brushed under the rug. But no, Texas contained Ohio State, and they dominated against the three cupcakes. That's what you'd hope to see them do up front. Now, will they have to be better? Yeah, absolutely. Again, I'm not sure why they didn't have 3 down defensive linemen to begin that game. Make DJ Lagway beat you, but Jeff, that goes back to kind of that off-week, bye-week preparation, in which questionable. But no, I do think that there are still some very good pieces on this Texas defensive line. And I do think that the way that these linebackers are playing, this front seven is going to keep you in games with its ability to contain the run. Now, there need to be more tackles for loss, havoc plays. There haven't been many of those at all. But ultimately, just force teams to work down the field, because by then you'll have enough opportunities to create turnovers or stall drives.
I think, at least I hope the Florida game was a wake-up call for PK from this standpoint. They came out, they to their credit, like, they do what they do, right? And Texas has been very good at doing it the last couple of years. They played, off coverage, were in a too-high shell, and tried to defend the run with a light box. It was pretty evident after that first drive that was not going to happen. And I don't think, guys, they were prepared that early in the game. Football is a race now. When you're an offensive for offensive staffs, it's a race to see how quickly can we get them out of a too-high shell look or a 3-deep look and get them to play middle field post safety, to where they have to bring up an extra body to account for the run. Now we can really get into our stuff and be off and running. Texas had to do that way earlier than I think they wanted to. And I'll give the defense credit because they did regroup in the second half. But I think it was CJ. I don't know if you were there for it. I think it was Leona Lafau who said it yesterday. It's like, we were better in the second half. We just took way too long and dug ourselves way too much of a hole for it to matter by the time.
Yeah, which is unlike PK. Normally his early game plans are fantastic. And that's why I think, Jeff, it was so surprising and frustrating at the same time, because I think Sark mentioned it. The 3 scoring drives early on in that game all were 10-plus plays. And that doesn't happen necessarily against this Texas defense or that PK game plan to start games.
Yeah, I think this was a case of, Texas got popped in the mouth probably earlier than they thought. And I think they were a little taken aback when Florida just kept on throwing one body blow after another. And like I said, when they recovered and started making adjustments, you're already down big by that point, and the entire flow of the game has changed. Yeah. So, I'm not going to give them a mulligan, because you don't get mulligans at this level of college football, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt to say, look, last year what made that defense so special is really, other than from mid third quarter on in the Arizona State game, this defense didn't play a bad game last year. And you figure, okay, at some point during the season, you're going to have a day where your defense just doesn't bring its A game. That, unfortunately, was one of those games on Saturday. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll get it figured out.
Yeah, a lot of questions about the defense. CJ, I wish you would straight up ask Sark, what the heck did you guys do in the bye week? I mean, I think we all wish we could ask him that question. My biggest disappointment was how poor the defense played. Where was any pressure on one-legged Lagway?
Yeah, look, I'd love if I knew I'd get a legit answer. Sometimes, but also you run the risk of never getting called again on some of these questions. And I do think that I provide or ask some questions that dig a little deeper into Sark's brain football wise, and I hope others see that value as well. But no, in terms of the Lagway pressure and the lack thereof, look, we talked about it right after the game, Jeff. Florida and Napier did a great job. Napier essentially very early in that game took the ball and the decision-making out of Lagway's hands. They said, hey, you're not going to be thinking a lot here. You're not going to be doing anything that can put this game in harm's way. A lot of underneath, a lot of mesh routes, a lot of quick slants. And then as the game flow changed, Jeff, Texas got out of that too high, as you talked about. Then it became an opportunity to take shots down the field. And that's where Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown really came to light with those two big plays in the second half. But, I thought early on the game plan was great. And we've talked about it too. No one, I think only 3 quarterbacks in all of week 6 across the country got the ball out faster than DJ Lagway. It was snap, look across the field, get the ball where it needs to go. Whereas it was the complete opposite for Arch Manning, who had, I believe, one of the longest time to throw percentage or times of all quarterbacks in week 6. It was night and day in comparison to what Napier had for Lagway and Sarkisian had for Arch Manning, which is not something I anticipated.
No doubt. And look, I still believe in this Texas pass rush. I believe in Colin Simmons. The talent is there for Texas to have one of the best pass rushers in the country. But Florida did what Texas didn't do. You have to earn the right to rush the passer. And you earn the right to rush the passer by being really good on first and second down to give yourself predictable pass rush situations on third down, predictable passing downs for the offense. And Texas didn't do that. It's hard to pin your ears back and get after the quarterback when they're running. I mean, I couldn't believe it was more. I think in the first half of that game, Florida averaged almost 5.5 yards a carry. It's really hard to pin your ears back and try to get after the quarterback when the offense is just popping off 5, 6, 7 yard chunks on you the entire first half.
Yeah, I think the biggest stat for me that I found interesting from this game is 0 sacks for Texas versus 6 sacks for Florida. That's something that was not really characteristic of this defense last year. And then also just Texas really gave up explosive plays that really that cannot happen in these kinds of situations. A couple other questions. I like this question a lot from D Money Can't Get Money. It seems Coach Shipley mentioned that maybe the schemes we run on offense and defense get the guys to think too much. Overthinking will slow down your play on the field. What are your thoughts? I definitely think you see this with Arch a lot, of just him probably just waiting too long. Obviously, you said he's been holding the ball a lot longer than I think it was like second highest in college football. But what do y'all think about this one?
Yeah, this could also go into the conversation about guys pressing, right? And whether it's Colin Simmons, and I'm going to give Colin a break here. I thought he played very well against Florida. He did. He had 4 of your 6 pressures. Texas only had 6 pressures on DJ Lagway. Colin Simmons had 4 of them. He also had 3 straight tackles for loss on runs straight to him. So he played well. Anyways, guys are pressing, and it forces them to think they need to do more than what's required of them or what's asked of them. And as a result, you don't play with instincts. And when you stop playing with instincts, well, that's when you get into trouble, because other guys they play quicker, more free, looser. It just flows differently when you're sitting there having to think time and time again. And it's not apples for apples here, but when you play a blitz game of chess, right, the longer you think, the less time you have to win a match, right? Same thing on a given play in a game of football. The more you think, the more opportunity your opponent has to be one step ahead of you. And that's exactly what Texas has seen so far. Now, in regards to the scheme and stuff like that, look, how easy is it for a mindless catch, throw to the outside, and let your blockers and your wide receivers create after the catch? It's easy. We haven't seen that, though. I think the only time that we saw an immediate missile screen out to a wide receiver was on the double pass. So, there's ways that Texas and Sark can specifically help his guys out. But all in all, Jeff, I think the biggest reason and way that Texas can help itself out is to run the football for more than 15 yards in a game.
Yeah.
That's as mindless as it gets. Get ball, run forward.
I'll borrow a line from Sark. You get what you emphasize. And to your point about Florida's game plan, CJ, it was pretty clear. Billy Napier's number one objective in that game was we cannot have negative plays on offense. We cannot get ourselves behind the chains, because if they do, he knew DJ Lagway was on one leg, and you become a one-legged man in a butt kicking contest. And if you're living in like 3rd and 7+ against Texas, where it becomes a predominantly passing game, you're up the creek without a paddle at that point. I don't know what Texas is emphasizing. Everything you said, CJ, is 100% accurate. I agree with it. And it kind of leads me to, what is Texas emphasizing right now? I'll say that the one thing I'll say about the offense, though, is this. I haven't gotten an indication that guys have lost faith in Sark or lost faith in the scheme. I haven't sensed that yet. And I've seen that happen with Texas teams. Like one, I can remember this vividly, that 2016 season, Charlie Strong's last, they played a game at Oklahoma State. That was a 3-block PAT game. Sorry to give everybody PTSD about that. But I remember being in the post-game press conference and talking to Malik Jefferson, and I forget the exact quote, but it was something effective like, yeah, I don't know what we're doing on defense right now. And I thought, dude, if that guy has lost confidence in this staff's ability to put together a game plan, it's over. And sure enough, by season's end, it was over. So I haven't gotten that sense from this team yet on offense.
Yeah, and of all guys, Malik Jefferson, to make that comment, I think you're really in a hole when it's a guy that's as nice as that making that kind of comment. We'll talk a little bit more about this game this weekend after we hear from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
So one other thing I wanted to talk about was, which I think we saw this issue on and off last year as well, just because of how depleted this running back room has gotten. But just the running back room issues, do you guys think this is indicative of offensive line, or is it just sheer talent available? Because you get Wisner back this week, and you think you'll have some life restored in that room a little bit. But I mean, Arch Manning was once again your lead runner, and I don't think that's acceptable at this point at all. And I don't think you can win football games in the SEC if your quarterback's your lead rusher.
Absolutely not, unless your guy is Johnny Manziel or Cam Newton or Vince Young, right? And Arch he's talented. He's more than serviceable with his legs, but he's not a guy that you want to run 15 or 20 times. It all belongs with the big boys up front. Trey Wisner didn't forget how to run a football in the 4 weeks that he's been sidelined. That guy ran for 1,000 yards a year ago. He's a good running back. Texas has talented running backs. These are all top 10 for the most part running backs in their recruiting cycle. We've seen spurts of Jarrett Gibson. What we saw of Jarrett Gibson was him running through holes that were manufactured by the guys up front, right? He breaks tackles as a result of that. When he gets ahead of steam, he's a good running back. What we saw on Saturday, I don't think there was any Bijan Robinson was on the sideline for the Florida game. You put him in that game on Saturday, he probably ends up with 15 yards running. I mean, that offensive line, if you go back and you watch the tape, they had no push. They had no control over their gaps. They had no opening for running backs to create. And I think that's the biggest issue. It's my biggest concern moving forward, because you play against an Oklahoma, a team with probably the best front seven in all of college football right now. You're not going to run for any yards. And guess what? The script and flow of the game is going to go the exact same way as Florida, in which you're going to have Arch sitting back in the pocket trying to create down probably 2 or 3 scores, and it's going to be ugly. The fact that you can't get to 20 yards rushing with your running backs against a team that is talented, but I wouldn't say is anything near the top of what you're going to face in the SEC this year, it's a huge concern. And it all starts up front.
Yeah, the more I think about it, this offense really reminds me a lot of the 2017 offense.
Oof.
Because you think about that offense, the only chance you had with that offense to have a game breaker or a guy that could change the game at running back, the head coach didn't like him and moved him to tight end. You had receivers that eventually became really good receivers, but Colin Johnson, Devin Duvernay, Lil Jordan Humphrey, those guys were young, they were inexperienced, and they just weren't ready to take that step yet. And the offensive line, you had injuries, and go back, CJ, and pull some of those participation reports and see some of the offensive linemen that Texas had to start in Tom Herman's first year. It wasn't pretty. I know they wanted to redshirt Derek Kerstetter and then realized 4 games in, there's no way we can. We have to play him because we have nobody else. And what was your idea? What was that offense's identity? Put the ball in Sam's hands and hope for the best.
Yeah,
what is this offense
at the end of a game?
What is this offense's identity right now? Put the ball in Arch's hands and hope for the best.
Do you think these are issues that can be rectified by this weekend?
No.
Because I know Sark said in his press conference that he was confident that the issues that you saw in the Florida game could be rectified by this weekend. But I think we're pretty clear here on where you stand on this.
Hey, if they can be rectified, then Kyle Flood is actually a guy that can make magic out of nothing. I will say this for Nick Brooks specifically, who I would bet right now would be the guy that you see at left guard come Series 1 against Oklahoma. I think we've seen the absolute worst with Nick Brooks. I think he's a very talented player. I think the ceiling's very high. And, hey, he's finally working at the guard spot. He's finally getting a snap in practice at guard. That didn't happen at all before he was thrown to the wolves in the swamp. So, hey, I think that his play will continue to increase as the season continues and the more reps he gets. But ultimately, I think that was the worst we'll see of the offensive line, and it better be. Otherwise, you're probably barely going bowling.
Probably going to see something like this again of Arch leading the Texas offense.
Yeah. And you go back to that season and you finished 7-6, you were 6-6 in the regular season. How did you get to 6 wins? You had a defense with NFL guys all over the field that kept you in games. You had the best punter in the country that kept you in games with field position. And if the offense didn't turn the ball over and it was one of those days where a young Sam Ehlinger was on it, you had a chance. If he wasn't, then you probably didn't. So, yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of parallels. The good thing with that team was, though, eventually that team became, the 18 team that played for a Big 12 championship and ended up winning a New Year's Six Bowl. And 19 was more talented and should have been better than, what were they, 8-5? And then one of the big what ifs for me is if they had a full off season in 2020, who knows what that team could have been in 2020. So I'm not giving up on talent and the potential, the long-term potential that this team has. My thing right now is I knew it was going to be a growth process with this offense. It's just started further back and taken longer to get there.
This is interesting. If UCLA can install a completely new offense before the PSU game, we can make significant changes too, but you have to have the want to. I think if there's any time for you to have the want to, it's before a game like Texas OU, where, if you don't figure something out, you could easily go into this game and end up with a result like OU saw last year, but flip that. And I think that would be a regression that would have most Texas fans at your throat once again.
The good thing about this game, about the OU game, is it is a game where, man, emotion will take you a long way. Juice will take you a long way. When I've seen blowouts in this series, it's, basically how Texas handled the flow of the Florida game, if that was a Texas OU game, they would have probably lost 45-10. Because Amanda, you've been in the Cotton Bowl for that game. CJ, you've been in that stadium for that game. The momentum, unless you've been there, I don't know if you'll fully grasp what I'm saying, but the momentum swings in that game it's unlike any other. And I've been to bowl games, CFP games, big regular season games. It is unlike anything else you'll experience at a regular season game. And that's why if teams aren't ready for it, that's when they get blown out. Likewise, man, we talked about it last night on the Winning Drive when I was on with Coach Shipley and Rod. The two games I think about, like 2013 and 2015, man, if you show up if you can cobble together a good game plan, have some pride about you, and show up ready for a fist fight and just hoping a football game breaks out, in this game, that'll take you a long way and you'll be able to compete. And what I'm hanging my hat on, I know I talked earlier about trusting to be rebuilt with Sark because we hadn't seen something like that in a long time. But I feel confident saying, even in the losses, physicality hasn't been an issue for Sark's teams in this game. They've been able to hang, and they've been able more often than not to be the aggressors. So I'll hang my hat on that and feel good about that going into the weekend.
I think you can even see that sense of momentum, not in blowouts, but in situations where, like when Texas was like, 27 or something points leading, and OU mounted a comeback. It's just a complete game of momentum. So might be why Texas is bet on or is favored to win this game right now, but I think that'll probably change before.
I mean, it's like watching a heavyweight fight and somebody throws a haymaker. Like the best example to me is there's a bunch of good ones, but like I think about the one thing that made the 2008 game so great was that Jordan Shipley kickoff return. Because at that point it's like it's 14-3. You're like, man, Texas on the ropes. What are they going to do? And dude, they threw a freaking haymaker with that Jordan Shipley kickoff return. Like you can think about the big plays in this game, and that's why they're so memorable, because it completely swings it in the other direction.
Yeah, the Caleb Williams 4th down run.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the Chris Whaley's 2013 Chris Whaley's interception return for a touchdown. That 2015 game, the Marcus Johnson touchdown on the full flip pass where I don't know if the OU guys heard a whistle, but it's like 11 guys just stood there and watched Marcus Johnson run into the end zone. Those are the kinds of plays that make this game special. I said last night, man, I'm not letting the state of the Texas offense put me in a bad mood for this game, because it's the freaking OU game. We get one of these games a year. It's my favorite sporting event of the year. I'm not going to let anybody ruin it.
Yeah, I got to say, I watched those 2015 highlights the other day. They make me feel a little bit better about the possibilities during this game. I was like, I had a lot of anxiety after that Florida loss, and I needed some good mojo back in my system. But we'll get to some more of your comments after hearing from our friend Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some good news. Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders, serving the Austin and Round Rock area and all of Texas, is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local to the Austin, Round Rock area and all of Texas, give him a call at 512-218-8571. So I thought this question was interesting from our friend Texas EMS05. Thanks so much for the super chat. Is Sark's mentality one of understanding with mistakes, or does he have some of the Saban, no mistakes ever, all the mental errors seem like players aren't scared to make them, like it's no big deal? I feel like it's the understanding. From what I haven't ever seen anything from him that makes it seem like he's quite as hardcore as Saban when it comes to this.
No, and there aren't many that are. I think that's part of what made Saban so special. Now, on that note, I'd like to see some more emotion from Sark, especially in regards to the lay the law down. You either do it right or you don't do it at all. And especially on the offensive line, right? I mean, miscommunications. Look, running backs and pass protection. Someone needs to get in the face of a running back and say, dude, do you care? This is your pride. You're getting blown up by a guy that's your size. Do you care? I'd like to see some of that. And it was the same way that I sat here and said, after Arch stared in the face of a guy that's about to go work at Enterprise Car Company and taunted him and said, I liked it. It's because it showed that he cared. It showed that that game meant something to him after 3 weeks of really no emotion at all. So it brought something out of him, and that something was competitiveness. And for Sark, I know that he cares. He's talked about it all offseason. I get addicted to winning. We're so close. We're so close to getting over the top. I'm addicted to it. Well, if you're addicted, you show that emotion. You show that passion. And I know that he's got a lot on his plate having to call plays, but at some point when you see an interception, look at the face of the quarterback. Say, come on, man, I need you to be better. When you have a touchdown, when you have a big play, let's go a fist pump. Let's get the boys riled up because you got to be a leader of men on that sideline. They look to you for that inspiration. And Jeff, to your point, what you talked about, the flow of this game on Saturday, you bet you won't see Brent Venables out there, screaming, hollering, hooting. He will be. And I hope that rubs off on that sideline. And I hope the same way it will for Sarkisian if he shows that same emotion. So, yeah, I think that you need to be tougher when your team is playing poorly. And I think you need to applaud your guys when they get it going in the right direction, because what you do as a head coach rubs off on everybody in the program.
Yeah, I completely agree with that there. Another question we had, going back to the whole Arch situation, shouldn't we all be in Arch's corners as Texas fans, considering the O-line's deficiencies? I think this roots back to our article of just people, one, initially in the season, Arch does anything wrong, it's immediately just a reaction to completely dog on him. I mean, and now I think after the Ohio State game, you could see a little bit of that. Fair, assessment of Arch just looked like he was scared completely in the pocket. But at this point, after seeing how the O-line performed, I feel like you've seen some progress from Arch and how he's performed.
They should be in his pocket. Absolutely. Because again, until that offensive line figures it out, he's going to be on an island by himself. And that's what you don't want to have happen, is the fan base turn on a quarterback who's giving it his all, getting hit 20 times a game, and all of a sudden he's not feeling that same level of appreciation. I'm not saying anything's going to happen as a result of that, Jeff, but
look, you can go back to we can go revisionist history on Texas quarterbacks and look at the end product and be like, oh man, they had a great career. We saw it last year with Quinn. We saw it with Sam. I still remember people saying, hey, Casey Thompson gives you a better chance to win than Sam Ehlinger. You should change quarterbacks. There's always going to be people that have a problem with the starting quarterback, one way or the other. I've been pretty steadfast. I haven't changed my opinion. I'm not giving up on Arch. I'm just not. I've seen enough that makes me feel like he's growing. He's got a chance to get there. He's not there yet, but it's maybe a little bit of a slower burn than maybe we thought. But I've seen enough that tells me, yeah, he can get there at some point. You don't just throw in the towel, man. And to CJ's point, yeah, I not that I didn't respect Arch Manning before that game, but even in a loss, if you can go into that environment, take that kind of beating and give your team a chance to win in the fourth quarter. And look, Arch on Monday, to his credit, he put the blame on himself, taking accountability for the last drive. He's like, I can't take a sack in that situation. But he'll learn from that. But I just, my level of respect for him was up because it's an insanely tough position to play, and doing it in that environment with very little help around you, it's good. I'm good with Arch.
I think on that note, after seeing that Athletic article, a lot of people in the comments were, this should be bookmarked into oblivion of just, have we started keeping receipts on this season? I have confidence that Arch will continue to progress. And just for the note, I always keep receipts, whether I think I'll be able to use them in the future or not. I never quit. I'm always keeping the receipts.
That's a dangerous game, especially like me. I just keep firing from the hips.
You're lucky you're on my team. So
I'm a 4-time freezing cold take appearance.
Well, maybe you should learn from those mistakes then.
Won't.
I did like this question too, about the O-line and the portal, because Sark was asked about this in the press conference as well. Why didn't Texas go into the portal for O-line if they knew it'd be an issue going into the season? And I personally felt like the answer was kind of initially when he responded to this, he would have gotten somebody from the portal. If there was somebody in the portal, he had better luck. What was it, going to the co-op to get somebody to play on the O-line? But at this point, I can see where the question is, why hasn't this position group been prioritized? Because you knew what you were likely going to lose to the draft.
I think it goes back, CJ. I don't know what your opinion is. I think they didn't go get one because they didn't think it was going to be this big of an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only a logical explanation.
Yeah, to your point, and again, this is where the defense of Kyle Flood comes in. You didn't prepare for one of your top 3 tackles to tear an ACL, a guy that's played both guard and tackle in his career. You also didn't prepare on your 4th-year projected starting left guard to all of a sudden become completely unavailable to play for whatever the reason. And again, I don't know that reason, and I don't think I would divulge it even if I did at this point in the year. But those are 2 big pieces that have put Texas behind the 8 ball. Now you got to find a way to overcome it. And so far,
Nacho does have 4 years of eligibility, so he might be interested. He already fits. He doesn't even need a uniform. He's already orange. What do we think about Sark pulling a Dabo with our running back, offensive O-line, and wide receiver rooms with no portal moves? I mean, he did go to the portal for wide receiver room, so I don't know about that there.
You didn't need to for running back.
This is the running back one is the one where I won't defend the staff, but I'll agree with their line of thinking. When you look at a depth chart and CJ Baxter's coming back from injury, and Trey Weisner's coming off a 1,000-yard season, what running back is going to come to Texas out of the portal thinking like, yeah, I can start? You're getting in the portal and going somewhere because you want to almost pretty much be guaranteed you're going to be the guy. And with the personnel Texas had coming back, you couldn't guarantee anybody that they were going to be the guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's that. I think it's look, man, the staff's not perfect, and it's possible that with this particular roster at certain position groups, they just miscalculated. They were wrong. Sometimes in football that happens, man.
Yeah, I mean, and even if that's the case with the running back, I think the running back room would be a little bit better if the line was a little bit better. It's all interconnected. It's something where you have to have all the tools working together at once for there to be a successful product at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't blame Sark for feeling like Kyle Flood would have this offensive line in a much better position at this point, or that the pieces would have been better. But hey, it is what it is. You can't go on a waiver wire right now. You got to work with what you got and try to make it. I want to go back though to something that CJ was talking about earlier. We were talking about, hey, can you fix the issues on offense? Just to kind of wrap up, because I agree with everything CJ said, and you're talking about there's different things. Look, you can't. This offense isn't suddenly going to become great and elite like overnight. The switch isn't going to flip, and I don't even know if that's their ceiling at this point. But there are certain things you can do. You can find certain things here and there that can help you at least put a better, more competitive product on the field, which I think is, again, my bar for the offense is pretty low, but I don't think that's that high of a bar to clear.
What do we think about this? Give Justice Terry the ball at RB. I mean, I feel like you still need a no line to make these things work at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have heard that he's had a very good week of practice. So I know, folks, that doesn't matter for anybody, but
I mean, Texas has had good weeks of practice since fall camp started. And
I'll tell you what, give me more.
Have they had a bad week of practice? Has Stark ever said they had a bad week of practice?
I don't think any coach will ever say he had a bad week of practice. I'll say this though. Give me more of guys like Nick Townsend. Like, that's what I'm looking for on offense. Nick Townsend may block the wrong guy, but he's going to knock somebody's head off.
Only one snap, Jeff.
Yeah, so give me more of that. Like, I need some of that. This team needs some of that.
We'll get to a couple more of your questions after we hear from our friend Andy Ludicky. Stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, call Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. He will take you through a process to identify a business that will not only fit your financial goals, but also your skill set. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy or email him at myperfectfranchise.net. So we got a couple more questions to get to before we wrap this one up. Do you guys have any insight on Sark and the staff and their process of self-scouting?
Not particularly. I know a lot of what used to be coaches watching tape and finding, their own preferential guys in the recruiting world has been pushed off to personnel departments. There are several football programs, I'm not including Texas in this, but their coaches don't know who they're recruiting until their personnel departments tell them who to recruit. Now, that's what happens when you have a GM and a head coach, and you got to work together in this. But altogether, it's more about identifying traits, Jeff, as you mentioned, with that ability to just go all out and move people if you're an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, and then trying to develop them once they get to campus. So I don't think there's anything specific there.
Yeah, I think in terms of self-scouting on like the game plan side, that's more of I don't think that process has changed much, at least that I've heard. I mean, typically that's what you hire analysts for.
Yeah.
Is to
I
basically
missed that question entirely. My bad.
No, you're good, because I think that's important, but that's what analysts are there for. They're to take a look at the opponent, understanding your own tendencies and your strengths and your weaknesses, and come into that Sunday meeting and have the basically the shell of the week ready to go. Like, hey, here's what you're looking at. So, that's why, that's where we can talk about analysts and their roles. That's really where your analysts need to be really, really good, is in self-scouting.
Matt asks, Jeff, this year feels like 03 or 06 or 07, where there is success and talent, but more of a transitional year. Thoughts? I guess this question is just to you, because I was in third grade in 03. So.
Yeah, I think the thing where what those years have in common, if I can put a sentence together tonight, 2003, you're coming off a year where you had, Chris Sims had a really good senior year, and you're coming off your, Chance Mock hadn't started. You've got a redshirt freshman, Vince Young. So you were young and inexperienced at the quarterback position. You were playing some redshirt freshmen on the offensive lineman. So yeah, that was the transition. And then I think 06, 07, Marcus, I know it's, yeah, really. 06, 07 similar, because you had Colt. The difference is going from, the 06 team was basically, obviously you lose VY, you lose a couple pieces from the national championship game, but real good core of that team came back. 07 was really the transition year where Colt didn't have a great, so I was talking about you are revisiting his history about quarterbacks. Colt McCoy did not have a great 2007. I think he was 22 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. The offensive line was kind of in flux. So yeah, it's probably, and you could probably sense some of that, like, hey, as good as this team's going to be in 25, maybe 26 is the year. So yeah, maybe this year's a little more of a transition than maybe we thought.
Yeah, I think it definitely does feel a little bit more. I mean, and I think one of the big frustrations with fans also is that they did not expect this to be a transitional year. They expected this to just be a continuation of the success that Texas has had. They've gotten used to making the college football playoff and now winning games in the college football playoff. And why would you think that would be any different, especially when you were begging for this quarterback to play all season last year and thought he would be as good as, or if not even better than, Quinn? So I think you're right on the spot with that being more of a transitional year. Or at least that's what it looks like it could be right now. We still have plenty of SEC play to go.
Yeah. And in those transition years too, Amanda, you still won 10 games in those years. So,
I mean, we'll see.
I'm just saying, it's like,
I mean, I would love it. I would love to win 10 games.
You mentioned this earlier, CJ, I think you did too. Like, a win on Saturday completely changes how internally they look at the rest of the year. Like, if you beat Oklahoma, you're like, okay, hey, look, the schedule's manageable up until the bye week. Maybe you go into the bye week just with 2 losses, then you're right where you want to be in the mix to get to Atlanta. If you lose, now you're looking at like, okay, you can probably sense a couple losses coming. So for better or worse, the tone of the rest of the season is going to be set on Saturday.
Yep. Where was Jarrett Gibson last weekend and James Simon? I mean, I'd love to ask you guys these. I don't know.
I don't know. They're killing grass on the sidelines, and to their defense, I don't think it would have mattered who. Again, it wouldn't have mattered.
I think I'm in the same boat there. Matt asks, Amanda, how is Luch treating you right now? I mean,
that's the question we all want to know. Honestly, is he on a high horse right now?
it's hard for him to be on a high horse because he's just scared to talk at this point because he knows it could still come to bite him pending how the A&M game goes. And I almost kind of regret making it that he's scared to talk because it's a lot more fun when he's talking more than he should talk. But I mean, we are recording these a little bit later, but yeah, Luch doesn't scare me. Come on. The guy's harmless.
That's why I don't ever want to get married. Everything I say is eventually going to come back to bite me. And I say a lot of things.
We can be scary. I mean,
I don't like
sometimes.
That. Hey, you just got to pick which hills you want to die on, CJ.
I just got a dirty look from my boyfriend, so maybe we change this.
At some point, you'd be like, you know what? This is not a hill I want to die on. I will concede defeat here. But then there's times where you're like, nope, damn it, I'm
always wrong.
That will win you. That will get you a lot of good spirit.
I just hope that last line wasn't clipped for whatever reason.
You'll save yourself a lot of grief if you just keep on with that mindset when you're
Marcus, I've learned that from Rod B.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
My boyfriend would disagree with you on that one. But anyways, this sounds like a good time to wrap this one up. Thanks so much for joining us, y'all. Make sure to tune into Coffee and Football tomorrow morning for On Texas Football, this Longhorn live stream. I'm Amanda Atwell. That's Jeff Howe and CJ Vogel. You guys have a great night and hook 'em horns. It is 8:31 and OU still sucks.